Good to see you,
We
man.
are the Story Dads, and today we're going to be talking about 101 Dalmatians.
Yes, indeed, and that is not the live-action movie. That is not the most recent Cruella de Vil movie.
Yep.
That
The
is
original, what was it, 60s?
Yeah, let's see, 1961.
61.
It's classified as an adventure comedy.
Adventure comedy. Okay.
It is the Xerox era. It actually kicked off the Xerox era, as you were talking. We mentioned during, I think, Jungle Book, we were talking about the Xerox era with, I think,
Sword
the same director, or one of the directors, Wolfgang Reitherman. And so that was, at the time, a new invention, and I did find out they were actually using xerography, and so it's not just like a colloquial name for it. It's it revolutionized their production pipeline, saved them tons of money.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and so this one, if it's cool, I'll just go through real quick trivia.
Please.
On it. So we're in the corpus of work. We're coming off of Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty was, which I didn't know this, was a huge failure in the box office. And they were toying with shutting down.
Sleeping Beauty would have been, what, 59?
Yeah, 58, 59.
Okay, yeah.
And so it apparently did so poorly that they were looking at potentially shutting down the animation studio, which is amazing because I just think Sleeping Beauty it's so beautiful. And like,
do you think that's why they were going off of like princess stories at that time?
Potentially, but this would have been in production while Sleeping Beauty was coming out, and so it already would have been too late to change.
Huh. You forget production timelines were much longer back then, whereas now it's like, they wouldn't have, would have come out taking a year to produce or whatever.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, most feature animated films are like 4 to 6 years to come out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you see in a children's movie and you're complaining about is like, well, you're 4 to 6 years too late. This decision's already made. With they can do last minute changes. So then this movie comes along. Walt Disney was backing away from animation personally because he was still alive. He was more focused on Disneyland and on live action movies. Yeah. And so he had kind of withdrawn from the animation studio, and then this film, skipping through a lot of the production details, this film became like their highest grossing movie. And it came out, January 25th, 1961, critical acclaim. It grossed $14 million domestically. It was the first animated feature to earn over $10 million. It became the 8th highest grossing film of the year, the highest grossing animation film when reissues of films are not counted. Let's see. Because of the xerography, it cost way less, like half. If you count reissues and adjust for inflation, it's the 12th highest grossing film in North American box office history.
Wow. That's wild.
The second highest grossing film globally.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy. Like, you would not put 101 Dalmatians on your short list of highest grossing films ever.
Yeah.
For Disney, let alone like internationally.
Yeah, like all time. And now, of course, that involves all of the re-releases because they re-released it in theaters like 4 times between 1961
but you're talking like specifically this movie.
This
like,
movie.
Talking about
not including the remakes, not including anything else, but just this film.
Right. Because like the Sleeping Beauty is a flop box office wise.
Yeah.
There's Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland. Like there's still big stuff and stories and ways that resonates that are told. I can't think of at any of the Disney parks like 101 Dalmatians, anything. I'm sure it's there, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Like maybe there's a fire hydrant in Fantasyland or something like that.
Or there's like Toontown or something where it's on a menu at some restaurant, but it's not like it's not a thing that feels like it's got cultural resonance. We'll get into the story. I think there's some cool like relevant pieces to it. It's
now that said,
about it,
do your kids love it?
Yeah. Oh, they have a blast with it.
Yeah.
Ryan, my oldest, went through a moment where like this was on repeat for a period of time, and that only that's only a handful of movies that's really happened with. Like,
right.
It was every time, I think it was about 4, it was the Disney movie kept wanting to watch.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy to be like, well, maybe he likes dogs or whatever. There's a ton of dogs in this one.
Right.
They kind of have their own adventure through that. But, you know, it could kind of pop on at any point. There's some, it has that 60s pacing to the movie. But it's, you know, it's got some comedy in it, some characters that are lovable. And Pongo is a good hero.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's some standard stuff that really clicks with him. And it, you know, despite it definitely feels like a movie from the 60s, it resonates.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the early films that they did that actually takes place contemporaneously. You know, when the movie came out, it was based on a book that had come out like just a few years prior.
Sure.
And the book wasn't like anachronistic, it was like, takes place now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, now it has this vintage feel to it, but at the time it would have been sort of like a hip, you know, present, cutting edge. Yeah. The way the art plays out at the beginning with like the play with minimalism and the way it's very
and the
graphic.
Music notes and the spots for the dogs as it's going through the credits. Yep.
It's very like jazzy and cool, and so it obviously landed that aesthetic. Like perfectly because it's remained. It's still got the class of like, I don't know, back in the era of like Saul Bass and these other artists that were kind of defining the aesthetic for that era. Yeah. So it's classy. It's straightforward.
Yeah, you were saying earlier we were talking about the beginning of this. So like the love story. What's the guy's name? Pongo and Perdita the dogs. What are the?
Yeah, Radcliffe, what's his name? Oh boy, okay.
You'd think we would know this. We're doing a podcast.
Yeah, I know. I literally like just watched it. I can't remember, but it kind of doesn't matter because Roger.
Roger and
I mean, I know the dogs' names, of course, Pongo and Perdita. Right. Roger and Anita.
Roger and Anita, right? And so, like, you know, their love story is cute. It's simple. Yeah. It's what starts the movie off, and it feels very normal but very iconic.
Yeah. What's funny about it, I watch it now with like it's funny, this is like modern sensibilities, but it's like in the last, I would say like 8 years, they have just light years shifted to what what seems normal, or like even being allowed to talk about what's normal, because normal in itself is like this, potentially tyrannical term.
We don't know what normal is anymore.
Who are you to say what is normal?
Yeah.
Interesting how it opens with just some sort of like a priori assumptions of what a bachelor is and what their life is like. So he's got some gentleman's magazines lying around, and it's not scandalous. It's like, well, naturally there would be, classically beautiful women on the cover of a magazine. And that, you get the great intro where like the narrator introduces himself. He lives with his pet down by the park.
Yeah.
And then we see, oh, no, I'm the one with the spots. My pet's over there. He calls himself a musician. And so we get this great, in the very first moments, you get this inversion of the world of, we will be telling the story through the eyes of the Dalmatian. And so he's trying to figure out what constitutes a suitable mate, which is a good question. One that, if you intend to mate, should be asked and considered maybe more carefully than just like some gentleman's magazines. But this really funny bit that I swear used to feel harmless. Yeah. And now there's this is perilous that he's looking at people and making a decision on their aesthetics almost as if aesthetics mattered, which as an artist, of course, I make my living on aesthetics.
And you're referring to the part where he's all the women with their dogs that look like them are walking by, and who's going to be a good fit? Too young, too old. Too not well kept,
there's an odd breed, and that one's like, oh, that one's too fancy.
Too fancy.
And discernment. It's interesting to see discernment and like value judgment,
but there's not an implicit value judgment in it, because it sees who is a good fit for Roger, and really, because there's kind of this idea of like, he sees Purdy, he thinks she's really pretty, and so that's who Roger's connecting with too, and so like there's that.
And that's another fun inversion, because like the camera previously lands on the woman and then will pan to the dog, and then when he spots Perdita, it lands on the dog first. He's like, that's the one. Like if only the owner, and then we see the owners.
Good, she's good too, right?
And
and then so the whole idea of discernment, and then they've decided now he's gonna manipulate Roger into going to the park, and
we're gonna meet cute,
right?
Yeah. And then the note I had about their meet cute is that the way it manifests is there's a disaster, and in the moment of disaster he does his best to be a gentleman, but they unite over good humor in the face of disaster. And I know it's just a little thing, but there's something about that is so unbelievably true that as you note for all the young folks out there, or not so young folks, on discernment is a sense of humor and humility in the midst of disaster, and a man who can continue to be a gentleman in the midst of humiliation, embarrassment, and disaster. Like these are good things to look for.
And someone who Anita is laughing and connecting with him, even though she gets chucked in the lake and is seemingly would have her day ruined. That is a sign of a good partner.
Before you make any kind of commitment to a partner, I think it's useful to see how they respond to calamity. And
so they go straight from there to getting married, right?
Boom, married, and then
some things there. Now on to the actual story.
And then to kids.
Yep.
In this case, puppies, but
in this case, puppies. There's always the fun modern critique, which is, I don't know, it's valid, but how does the bachelor musician afford a pretty nice place in London right outside that park? I don't know if that's a different time, or even for then it was a stretch, but I feel like I have so many people screaming in my head when they're watching this movie, like that's the initial thing people say is like, oh geez, like must be nice to have that place.
No kidding. He's like,
and then they both move in there.
Central Park.
Exactly, but then they both move in there, and Pongo and Perdita get pregnant right away, which, what is that? Marriage, kids, but in this case it's puppies, because we're not telling Roger and Anita's story, we're telling...
Well, again, this sort of assumption that that courtship and mating is good, desirable, and is, in a way, like the point. And then subsequently, fertility and children... And like when the stormy night
one dog doesn't make it through the birthing process, and then they do.
And so there's fun symbolism in that one. Is like, I can't help but get like Frankenstein vibes, the lightning, and then he's like resuscitating. But then there's also like, if I can go there, the father, there's Roger, this sort of benevolent paternal force, is resurrecting. Conducting resurrection, but if I can flex that might be reading a little too far into it, but
I mean, as a theme, it's there. I wouldn't say it's a major theme of it, but it's like, that's it fits.
And we see the first glimpses of him maybe like standing up against darkness. Standing up,
the devil shows up, and she is excited about all these puppies being born, right?
So there's I can.
So there's Cruella, who's Anita's boss, who Cruella de Vil.
Is she her boss, or I thought they just went to school together? Like they're.
I thought it was like she. It feels like they know each other from work in some way.
I think they're schoolmates, is what they said.
Okay.
Now they may have changed it for the live action one or something like that. But
so of Cruella, is she to me is the most iconic character in this movie. It's the one that sticks, the one that gets her own movie made out of her, and I would say for the corpus of female Disney villains, she's up there as one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable.
Well, and her character design is just awesome.
Same with that.
Well, you've got this, like, just this, the skull face. And the touch
She's got this very thin skin and bones thing, but big giant coat, big hair, colors, all that,
Right. Which tells that, like, beneath this substance is almost nothing. And when we see her without her makeup on, like, she doesn't have lips, she doesn't, like, she's just this emaciated, like, there's nothing to her but her vanity and her consumption, and her sort of like reckless, desire for consumption and vanity and modernity, right?
Yep.
And there's even the house that she lives in. It's like formerly grand and it's now decrepit, and so she has this feeling of like whatever
Sucks
there
the life
was,
out of wherever she goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the stark contrasts with the black and white hair, and then like the nasty green haze coming off of her cigarette, and her crazy car is just monstrous. And then, in that time frame, I think, if some automotive buff needs to check me, but I think that was like some of the early days of power steering and of women driving. At all, because before it required like lots of upper body strength to move a car, which is why when these old silver screen movies, it's one of the reasons, I guess I should say, why you almost never see women driving, is because these things were heavy. You just couldn't physically do it. And then in power steering, levels the playing field, and so I get the sense that she just blew all of her money on a big fast car, fur coats, and like expensive cigarettes.
And it's interesting because for all her vanity, she's not an attractive character. It's not like she's a bombshell coming in and I was like, whoa, check that person out.
Right, not even Maleficent.
No, she comes in and she is like big personality, takes up lots of space, massive ego.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to have much awareness of how she's perceived. Anita, darling, we're such good friends. And he's like, this crazy bitch, I don't know what's going on here. Roger's not happy to see her. She's like, she needs to get the heck out of here. And Anita's like, well, we kind of got to,
And doesn't mind insulting him in his own house to his wife,
But she doesn't, she still perceives that she is loved and adored by all because of whatever reasons are there. I started to say this to you earlier, like in the psychology world, borderline personality disorder and just like the unstable feminine, she's kind of a caricature of that. She's kind of like you said, like, she sucks the life out of everyone around her, feels very emotionally erratic if you step on her toes, and she either loves you, Anita darling, you're the best person ever, or she hates you, I want nothing to do with this person, and I will burn you and your house to the ground in order to do that. The two movies that come to mind when people think of a character like a borderline personality disorder, if you want to illustrate that, Cruella de Vil, and the woman, this is an extreme example, but the woman in Fatal Attraction, which was Glenn Close, right? Who's also plays Cruella de Vil in the live action one.
Yeah.
That is this like very comes on lovable, tries to put on this personality, very unstable, like as a villain character in the world of psychology. Like I think that's why the character of Cruella is so resonant, because inevitably people will know someone like that who feels like this big ego, very emotionally unsteady. I'm kind of walking on eggshells around this person. We don't want to piss them off, but they will certainly assert their will around that. That's its own very well documented pathology.
Yeah, and what percentage of the population is borderline? Like where does it emerge, and like where do you see it emerge?
So the big thing with borderline would be, I don't know off the top of my head like percentage of the population. I'd assume low. What do they say? Like 1 to 3% at any given point. The population will be like sociopathic, psychopathic, and it is borderline is kind of often seen as like the female psychopath. There's probably more precise ways of looking at that, but I'd assume just based off of that, it'd be in that 1 to 3% range around that. And of course, a lot of people can have traits along those lines. It doesn't mean you're full-blown personality disorder around that, but it's often characterized by a huge fear of abandonment, splitting, all or nothing thinking, I love you or I hate you. One of the things as a therapist, like if someone comes in and session number 1, they're just meeting you, oh my gosh, you get me so much, you're the best therapist I've ever had, like my last therapist was an idiot and didn't know anything, but like you get me so much, that's a warning sign, because get ready, we're gonna be on a roller coaster with this person, because you can hear already they're having this like, I'm your best friend today. Soon as I say something that challenges you or steps on one of the eggshells, like it's gonna flip, and that's kind of how the personalities get characterized. And oftentimes, like, I do think there's genetic predispositions to it, but like fear of abandonment, loneliness, desperation for like a partner, or mothers who are borderline can definitely enmesh and suck the life out of their children. It's a pretty common thing. So if anyone's resonating with that, I'd check out the book Stop Walking on Eggshells.
There you go.
I'll put the thing in the notes, but it's Cruella. Cruella is a good example of that type of energy.
Great. So if you're like, oh, I recognize this woman.
Yep.
You would.
This person is my crazy aunt, or that is my mom, and I have some baggage around women around that. Yeah. That's a thing, right?
And does it manifest itself sexually? Is there like a pathology in terms of like that behavior?
Yeah, it's oftentimes you will see when you're in the all good, all bad, when you're the all good, if you're the object of borderline's affection, very clingy, very desperate. I want everything from you. It can feel very like that energy sucking, like overwhelming, like I need some space for myself. There's that fear of abandonment that gets triggered. Like, where are you going? Why would you be away from me? Right. But then I feel like oftentimes in their relationships, it's someone who might feel very weak or struggles to set boundaries. They just kind of have to go along with it. And then again, drains the life out of that person. But inevitably there's a break. Inevitably there's something that comes on because it's going at a rate that's unsustainable. And then it flips over to like, I hate this person. Now maybe that comes along and gets repaired. They suck that other person in out of a sense of obligation, turmoil of that break. The couple comes back together. There's a clinician, Pia Melody, wrote some stuff about love addictions, which kind of fits in that realm too. But yeah, think of that like that very draining, very jealous, fear of abandonment energy from a partner. That's often what that would look like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the other thing about this character is, we were saying, like, on the surface, 101 Dalmatians really does feel like, oh, it's an action-adventure comedy. Like, it's benign, it's straightforward, but, like, there's something about, like, her name is Cruel Devil. Mm-hmm. And, she's this withered husk inside of vanity, which is, of course, Satan's, like, original sin, like, his flaw. Yeah. And modernity.
Yep. And
like she's got to have the new great thing.
Yeah.
She's got the hottest car. She's got the like greatest furs. She's got all the makeup and all the which at the time would have been like very sort of cutting edge, out there, expensive habits. And there's something about the idea that only the naive can see heroes and villains that starkly. Mm-hmm. But there's something about that idea that I think is naive in itself. Which is that, all evil, all like bad guys on some level want something good and they're going about it the wrong way, is the idea. But sometimes that good thing that they want is so like thinly good, it's such pale gruel, and the cost that they will go to get that thing is like you're just so far in the red that it's okay to acknowledge like that's evil.
Yeah.
So Cruella de Vil is gonna flay puppies, which is pretty dark stakes.
I mean, I was gonna add that it's a kids movie. That part's kind of skimmed over, but like she's gonna skin puppies alive so she can have a coat. Like that's dark.
Like there's a line that one of the puppies tells the mom what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining the child in the recording studio going, she's going to skin us to make a coat. And it's like, whoa, can we collectively take a second?
Yeah.
But the level of cruelty that she'll descend to get something so very pale, which is just some sense of self-fulfillment for my image.
I do think so. Like the humanized, it's been forever since I saw the remake. I didn't even see the Cruella de Vil movie, but like the humanizing take I think you would have on her is what she's neglected, she was abandoned, she's wanting a sense of connection lonely. That she doesn't have. She's lonely.
Yeah.
And she gets a sense of admiration and satisfaction from her vanity, from impressing other people in that way, and that becomes this thing she seeks after. Yeah. And even if that's true, it's still, like you said, it becomes this yes, you're lonely. A lot of people are lonely. A lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people have that. She has become so consumed with, I would say, this evil motivation for that vanity. I need to be the best no matter what it costs me, to the point where
and no matter what it costs
I'm going to steal my friend's puppies so I can skin them alive, so I can wear this coat, so I can stay on top of that. Like, now this evil intention has taken a hold of her, and that's driving this. Maybe there is some good hurt part of herself it's old and decrepit, and there's nothing left of it underneath this exterior of vanity.
Yeah, and I think maybe where the line is that for the most part, when you're encountering people in the real world, there are not villains and good guys, but somewhere on the periphery, which is where stories are told, is in the extremes, so that it's an interesting story.
Well, and characters are an encapsulation of this spirit of vanity, which is what Cruella is, right? So here's how the evil dark side of the spirit of vanity can take someone to be a villain in this story that's a love story between Dalmatians, and they have kids, and they're having a family, and the spirit of vanity wants to come in and literally rip it apart for its own
let me consume children, let me defy the happiness of a couple and their family, let me deceive the elderly, like all the things that she goes to. The links are, it's like, okay, so that is an archetype, and so the takeaway and the lesson is like, look out for people that want to do that. Look out for the motivations of someone who is willing to consume children, annihilate, peaceful households, and deceive the elderly, like all in the name of some greater good, which is fur coats are the greatest thing in the world, and it's a temporal, nonsense thing, but it. So,
but it's a thing that happens. I mean, it's the drive for vanity drives people to cross all sorts of moral lines and hurt people and sacrifice relationships and people they care about for that sense of vanity. I mean, in the social media age, that looks a very certain way, and you see it all the time. So I think that's the kind of theme that Cruella speaks to. Right.
And I would say, maybe identifying it in my own life, I get hooked on an idea of a thing, of like acquisition of an item. I get this. So, I draw on this Wacom all the time, and I don't have any problems with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But then one of my friends texts me and goes like, hey, should I get the new 27-inch version that just came out? And now suddenly I'm like, maybe I should get the new 27-inch version. And it's like, and now if I don't check that, the desire for the newest thing, that makes me feel good. Instead of actually just improving as an artist, I get the new gear instead. Maybe that'll make me a better artist. And it's like, well, if I was a better person with better habits, then I would be a better artist.
Sure.
And what do I need to tell my wife in order to justify this purchase? Which can I deny my children in order to get this thing? If I'm going to go really deep into that, like where is the cruel devil in me? How can I channel Roger?
Well,
that's the question we should all be asking ourselves.
Get out of here, Cruella. You're not taking up puppies. They're not for sale.
Yeah. And to taunt it, right? Like, isn't that the thing? Is that to taunt the devil, and to humiliate the devil, and then it becomes something that you can defeat.
And that's the song.
Yeah.
And that's the song he writes, which eventually makes them all their money so they can move to the country at the end, right?
Yeah, and of course the symbolism of music in itself is the symbolism of sort of just the beauty, harmonious, created order rising against Cruella. And the song even comes about, organically. And so she is a necessary part of their lives in a weird way. I didn't think to go here, but had she not shown up to give him those lyrics, they wouldn't have.
Because at the beginning, he's playing with the melody.
Right.
Even at the beginning of it, he's writing the music to it. He doesn't have any lyrics around it, and then he's inspired by here's this devil woman who comes in.
And so how else does he equip the world to taunt their own devils? Yeah. Again, I think we're going. This is what we do.
This is what we do. You guys lasted with us this long. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's to me that's the most interesting part of this. Like, The dogs, of course, go on their adventure. They connect to their network of other rescue dogs around the city and can figure out where they are. And
yeah. Well, and a word on that is that it's this sense of community.
Yeah.
And interconnectedness that rescues the dogs. Like the humans are incapable of rescuing them. They just put it in the paper and go, well, and then
we don't know.
It's the fact that all these creatures are in community. They know each other.
Yep.
And they send the word out.
It is kind of, it's set in London, but there is like a small town kind of we're all helping out each other kind of energy that comes from it. They sound out the call and then someone gets this and then word kind of gets back and eventually they figure out where they are. Do they say how long the puppies are captive by Cruella?
I think it's fairly immediate because well, no, some time has got to pass because in between him writing the song and then Christmas coming around where he's filthy rich, like that's gotta take a little bit of time. So I don't think we have a sense for how much time has gone by. Maybe I need to be a little more attentive to it.
Well, because they make their way out to, I don't know if that's Cruella's house or it's her hideout or
it's Hell Hall is what it's called.
Hell Hall. Okay.
Yeah, and it's Cruella's place.
Yeah, and she's got the two little henchmen who are working for her. Who are just kind of, which I would say you asked about like the sexual relationships of like borderline relationships, like that's kind of henchmen, weak guys who'll just kind of go along with what mistress tells them, like that tends to be how those relationships go. People who are they have that role. It's someone who's gonna just kind of tell them what to do, and they can be brutes, but they're kind of idiot brutes. And of course they're pretty useless henchmen to let 101 dogs get away from you, or 99 dogs, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they all escape. I don't know. Any interesting notes on their escape and their journey back?
Well, there's a part where the two henchmen are complaining about the ingratitude of these dogs after they've like taken care of them and stuff like that. Which I just love that attitude of like
I'm holding these dogs hostage, about to skin them alive.
Yeah, and that they owe me.
But I'm putting on their TV show, and I'm feeding them. Yeah. Yeah,
and then and about the TV, the way it plays in, TV would have been a fairly recent invention. At this point, and everyone watches it like it's in the movie. It's like putting smartphones in a movie in like 2010, right?
Okay.
And the one dog kind of ruins their escape because he won't stop watching TV, which would be now a kid who won't get off his phone and he's going to foil the rescue attempt. But the way that they escape, ultimately, they continuously outsmart the villains because the villains are sure that dogs are dumber than that. So that they're underestimating them. But they learned from watching the TV show at the beginning when that Alsatian is fighting that cowboy outlaw on the TV show to play dead and to deceive villains and to outwit them. And then that's what by taking in a lesson from a story, they later play it out by deception to in plain sight deceive the villain. They don't play dead. That would have been a complete parallel, but I just thought it was interesting, speaking to why we do this.
When you're saying the deception thing, are you talking about the they make themselves look like Labradors and roll in the soot?
Yeah. So they rather than escape or fight, they deceive, they outwit them, and they.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
They roll in the soot. They turn themselves into Labradors, and they walk right past them.
But you have to be pretty thick to be like, oh, those aren't Dalmatians. There's just 99 Labradors.
Yeah, there just happens to be another 99 Labradors in town.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, people didn't spay their dogs back then, so maybe. That was my only note, really, about the escape.
Yeah.
And then,
which kind of goes into our villain comeuppance, right? So the Cruella psychotically is coming after these dogs, trying to run the truck off the road, which is kind of this borderline, if I can't have it, I will kill you and kill myself in order to make sure that this doesn't work out. Like, at the extreme, like, that's, you know, going back to a borderline character in Fatal Attraction, like, that's what that character is. It's like, if I can't have him, no one's having it. I will kill myself and whoever in order to make sure, like, that doesn't happen. There's that kind of spirit that is, I think of that shot where Cruella's driving, her eyes are all crazy, and she's, you know, the flames coming out of the back of the car. She is going to run this thing off the road and take everyone down. And again, like, you hear about someone driving hysterical and kids in the back of the car, and it's a traumatizing moment from growing up because I didn't know, like, what was going to happen. Like, that's that villain at that moment.
Yeah, and her car is coming apart around her, and so she's literally the car engine of her own destruction. Where the henchmen that she set on their trail and her, like, reckless commitment to vanity and modernity collide, literally, and blow everything apart, and then she's left with nothing but these two, like, worthless men who abandon her in that moment. As she's railing at them, they just go, shut up, and they're done.
Right.
And so
and it's that imagery of the her house is falling apart, her car is falling apart, she's not in her coat anymore at that point. Like, you can see she's just like this skin and bones person. Like, everything that's covered her sense of, like, that's covered up all the flaws and weaknesses. It's there. It's just, it all what's the word? Not fades away, but it all, like, decomposes off of her.
Yeah, and then we find out that the most popular song in England is her humiliation.
Yeah.
And it's Christmas Day. Yeah. And so, you know, the day where an infant humiliates, like, the master of the planet Earth, right? Is like that mythos, right? So it's ultimate humiliation.
Totally.
And so her comeuppance, because we don't know if she goes to jail, we don't know if she freezes to that, we don't know anything about her. All we know is her car's gone, her coat's not going to happen, her house is collapsed, and she's the laughingstock of England. Yep.
And that's where vanity leads, kids.
There you go. If you needed to land that plane for that lesson. But I mean, I think that's all my notes.
Do you think they're crazy for keeping the puppies? We'll just adopt all of them, because they start with 15, and then those 15 come back, and all of a sudden there's, like, I don't know what the number is, 84 more.
So they go and make a Dalmatian plantation. And they're gonna sink all the proceeds from the song, which I guess the poetic part is, like, the song is Cruella de Vil, and what it's gonna yield is, like, heaven, essentially, like this you know, paradise for Dalmatians.
Doggy paradise in the sky.
And of course, every time a Dalmatians movie comes out, sales of Dalmatians spike, and then Dalmatians wind up at pet rescues in like a huge wave. But that seems to happen no matter what movie and no matter what breed. So, like, Benji comes out and, you know, sheepdogs are suddenly
clownfish in Finding Nemo.
And so maybe what we really need is a Dalmatian plantation.
Think through if you can actually take care of your pets before you adopt them, guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, PSA right there. And then perhaps it ends with him composing another song. And so it's oh, well, maybe this just perpetuates itself, and he just continues to roll off these hits.
Do you think they move to that plantation and he continues his music career, or are they just pet owners and they retire off of his one-hit song?
Well, I did find out that there was an original ending in which the place that they purchase is Hell Hall.
Really?
And so they actually assume
they
the domain of the devil and resurrect it as, you know, New Heavens and New Earth.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
was that in an original script, or is that a
that was one of the original endings, and then they just shortened it. They just contracted it a little bit. There's another.
They don't show, because it ends with he's playing the Dalmatian plantation song, and then they pan out.
And it's just it comes out and then all the dogs are barking and the.
I think in one of the remakes there's like a shot of them on a big mansion in the country or whatever.
I've never seen any of the remakes. I haven't seen the live action.
I saw it when I was like 10 when it came, because it was like 96 it came out. I think I remember being good. It's Glenn Close and Jeff Daniels as Roger, which is
great casting.
It's cool.
And
sure.
It is good to remember that Disney has been doing unnecessary live action remakes for decades. It's not just recently.
Right. Okay, I didn't think about that. Was that live action remake the first one? And if so, what made them decide to do Dalmatians as a first live action remake?
Yeah. Well, I wonder, and it might have just been crunching the box office numbers and going like, okay, what's our biggest hit? What do we do with this franchise?
Right.
Because those are the meetings. Like they're not creative.
Yeah, because I don't remember. Again, I don't think it's been a huge like. There's been no rides or big attractions at like the theme parks around it at all. I remember a computer game that came out around that. I'm sure there's been like stuffed animal Dalmatian stuff will get a boost, but like it's not they're not selling a bunch of Elsa dolls, or it doesn't particularly seem like it lends itself to franchise or to
merchandising.
Like, there's no obvious video game series that comes out of this the way it does with Aladdin or any of those. So but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. It does feel like it's got a unique spot in Disney canon, because it's not I guess they did make a 102 Dalmatians movie at some point. Like I don't know anyone.
Which was live action, wasn't it? Or no, was it also?
No, it was live action, I think. But correct if I'm wrong. It hasn't spawned this huge like story arc through it, but it's got staying power. It's still one that we talk about, and you think of it as a Disney classic.
Well, and the stakes of flaying the puppies to make them a coat is
real stakes for sure.
Kids love high stakes, man. Yeah. Like the stakes in every Harry Potter story are like painful death.
Yeah.
And, there's this idea of like, well, you have to make it palatable for children and tone the stakes down. It's like, do you ever listen to kids play? Like, all of the imaginary games they play are life and death circumstances. Yeah. So there's something about the stakes.
I remember we talked about it was one of the Pixar movies. It was Luca, which we're not talking about Luca today, but like the stakes in that is like you lose the competition and the bully gets to laugh at you. Like that's not stakes, right? That's just like.
Well, except the other stakes involved are you get hit with they impale you on a harpoon.
Oh, there's that, right?
And everybody in town wants
But that's if you get caught. It's not they got to win the competition and set out and reach their goals. Otherwise, it's all going down. Like it's because you're talking about like how it does feel more palatable. Like a lot gets toned down.
Yeah.
In these more recent movies around that. Right. It's certainly not puppies getting flayed alive to be.
Right, and also the trend of like villains have to be redeemed in every movie. Right. Like we have to find out that like what they really wanted was just to be loved, and it's like sometimes.
For me, it's even if that's there, that the idea that should make them sympathetic is like that's where I disagree with it. Like what they really wanted to be loved, and they took the path of evil and death and destruction to get there or lash out or seek revenge rather than actually seeking that need. Like that's, we did Beauty and the Beast last time, and I think that's the difference between Beast and Gaston. They both are lonely and powerful men with egos. Right. One is willing to humble himself to grow and get there. One is just going to demand that and narcissistically just push that. So go listen to that podcast for more on that one. But yeah, I think the thing with villain, and I think it's why like Cruella deals. I'm speaking off the cuff here, but I do think she's one of, if not the most iconic female Disney villain. Yeah. Which from a franchise that doesn't have the staying power of a lot of other ones, like I think there's something telling about her. Yeah. So, and I do wonder if it isn't because she isn't grounded in something that we're all familiar with. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like we've all encountered someone like that. Yes. And so that cartoon feels connected. Yep. Well, that's our take on 101 Dalmatians. What are we doing next? We talked about Aladdin next. Let's do Aladdin next. Yeah. That'll be fun. We're going.
I played that video game.
Yeah, no, and that one lends itself to video games and merchandising quite well. And there is a lot of Disneyland attractions around Aladdin. It's So that's back to Renaissance era Disney.
Yeah.
I like how we're kind of bouncing back and forth between all the different eras here. So we're back onto Golden Renaissance era with Aladdin next time.
Yep. Stay tuned.